Hi, it's Dr. Steph Akoumany again. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here to make blooming a habit because workplace wellness and allyship, it matters. Thank you all for your honesty, for your courage, and your bravery. And we want to just follow up on our conversation yesterday about how being an ally is so important, but it also means that we don't have all the answers. We want to think about different ways that we can see if we're really being an ally at work. There's a great website called The Muse, and it has some great infographics about questions we can ask ourselves. Number one, do you get defensive at work if a coworker calls you out? Well, if we do get upset, it's important for us to just take a moment and listen and see why is it that we're feeling upset? Do we feel judged? Do we feel threatened? Do we feel bullied? Well, if we do, maybe we can take a step back and see why it is that they're saying what they're saying. How can we open ourselves up to receive a little more feedback in our lives? Number two, are you educating yourself actively, watching Netflix videos and documentaries, going to YouTube to find legitimate sources that can help us learn even more about racism, anti-racism, and unconscious bias? These things will be so helpful because you can hear from many different perspectives about ways that we can heal as a country. We've been taught from a young age about what it means to be Black, about what it means to be white, right? About what we can expect in our daily experiences. And it's time that we challenge these notions and create the world that we want to see, where we can create equity, like you all do every day when you create homes and opportunities for homes for people of color and people from socioeconomic statuses that may otherwise not have the opportunity to purchase a home, despite their racial background, despite their sexuality, their religion, their age. You all are helping to level the playing field. Number three, are you using your privilege to help others? Everybody has privilege. Yes, we do talk about white privilege, and it's something that we can see historically for the racial policies that have influenced who has access to what resources and who is seen as normal or as the neutral position. But we know that everyone deserves this equity, that we all can work towards justice, and that everybody deserves privileges. And one of them that you guys are working towards is the right to a place to live that is safe, sound, and secure. So if we think about privilege in many different ways, just even in having a job, a career, and a voice, how can we use our voices to stand up when we see something isn't right? How can we say something when people are, not really being as thoughtful as they could be? And how can we do it in the firm but kind way? Number four, do you amplify the voices of your coworkers? Well, it's important to stand up for what you know is right and to really see, who's being included in the conversation. Maybe we can make a hint, a suggestion to bring them in so we can really have a better understanding of how we can help the clients that we serve and work as a team with our colleagues. Do you hold your colleagues accountable? Once again, if you see something, we can't ignore it. Maybe address it immediately. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can think about ways that you might be able to talk to the leadership teams or managers, or if you are a manager, well, to talk to your whole team. How can we work towards this together? Because when people feel safe, they are more productive, more energized, and more passionate to do the job that they need to do. Do you acknowledge any unconscious biases you may have? It's important to remember we all have biases, every single one of us. So, what can we do to make things right without hurting people's feelings, but just being like recognizing, like, you know, admitting I did have a bias and that's something I'm going to work on, and then dedicate your life to doing it. And that's just fine. We're all going to make mistakes in our blooming process. We can't grow without mistakes. So, therefore, there's no such thing as failure. Number seven, are you consistently taking action? So, we can't just check off a box. Being an ally means that we're putting in the work, just like any relationship you may be in, romantic, familial, um, at work. It doesn't matter. We all have to put in work. And when we make a mistake, we fix it, right? Just like we would tell our kids or a young child that you have in your life. If you make a mistake, just clean it up, keep it moving, right? It's all love. Holding love in our hearts for one another is so important. I'm going to go to this slide right here first. We talked about this yesterday about listening, right? Listening to our colleagues and really seeing their perspectives, right? We also talked about the importance of learning from each other. So, creating more opportunities to hear each other's stories. So, next time that we meet as a group, we'll be really letting people know, to encouraging them to take their mute button off and to really speak and share their story, and for us to respond with an open heart and mind. Let it go. Let go of any unwarranted feelings of judgment, self loathing. Get rid of that stuff. It's not helpful for you, and it's not helpful for the group. When we have shame in our hearts, our body really just doesn't respond well to be able to be creative, right? The part of our brains that allow us to be creative is literally blocked by cortisol, a stress hormone. We don't have time for that. So shame, it has no place in your heart. We want everybody to feel full and free and like they're growing into the person they want to be. Shame has no place here. So the last one is lead with love. When we make sure that we're leading with love, we lead with love in our own hearts for ourselves, but also for others. Thinking about our clients, our coworkers as our brothers and sisters, having that same amount of unconditional love that we can have for them, to recognize that they too deserve to be heard, right? Just like we do. The next time we speak, some things I would like us to think about are when we speak and unmute ourselves or talk in the chat, is how can we participate authentically and operate with an open heart and mind? Embrace conflict without the need to control it, cultivate an honest and respectful discussion, and be mindful of our body language and communicating our concerns. This will be so helpful because how we treat each other matters, right? When people don't feel included, heard, they don't feel respected, and they don't feel well. We all want to be understood. Being ally, it doesn't mean having all the answers, right? But it does mean being open and empathetic to have uncomfortable conversations about social justice and calling out injustice when we see it. Once again, using someone's privilege to help someone else in need, working with people with limited access to education or resources or professional networks, changing unjust policies, right? And using mindfulness on a day to day basis, pausing, reflecting, breathing to really think about, okay, how can I get myself calm so I can really hear what this person has to say? If we think about implicit bias, we can think about the ways that we might unconsciously feel a certain way towards a certain group. So think about like news stories you've heard and how those stories have impacted what you expect in your day to day encounters. Well, maybe while driving, right? What do you expect when you're driving? For many Black people, it's not always the most fun process because so often in the news, we're seeing someone else being pulled over and being at the other end of police brutality, right? Unlawful searches, and unfortunately, sometimes death. This gets to be quite overwhelming and quite frustrating. And sometimes it desensitizes people, and other times it makes them feel very upset. Even though you might not feel you can do anything about this structural issue, maybe you can. It starts at home. Let's have a conversations with our family about these issues and think about solutions, right? If we know someone that we can have a conversation with, engage them, right? We can work to also uncheck our own biases, to check our own biases and see, you know, maybe I was scared when I went to the market that day and I held my purse a little tighter. Or maybe I did lock my door a little quickly when driving in certain parts of the city. Or maybe I did judge certain clients because I felt like this was not going to work out, right? How can I change that mentality and see where they're coming from? As we talked about yesterday, the cultural iceberg, there are things that we can see about culture of another person and then the things we can't see, right? We can see how someone looks, but that doesn't mean that we understand their expectations about their own worth, about their professional development, their learning styles, how they like to raise their children, the type of home they live in. If we really get to share our stories, we can better understand how people are thinking and what their values are. If we remember, though, culture is nothing but our ideas, beliefs, and practices. And we all have different cultures that we're a part of beyond race and ethnicity. Being anti racist is the process of unlearning, engaging, and enacting. So if we unlearn the things that we're told as a child or as a teenager, we can create our new realities now together. We have to remember that racism, it appears in many different forms. We can think about it on the systemic form of ongoing racial inequalities, institutional, right? The ones that are discriminatory policies and practices from organizations and institutions. You guys are helping to combat that every day by the hard work that you do. Interpersonal, where it's a person to person interaction, where there are bias that just keeps lingering, right? But we can change that. That's the great part. And internalize. Think about race based beliefs and feelings within individuals. How have we come to judge people as thugs or criminals or not being worthy? And how can we heal those things in our heart by realizing that everybody's story is different? Or if we see somebody that has these feelings, recognizing that everybody's story is different. The main thing that we can think about with becoming anti racist is thinking about this growth zone, right? We can think about how, the systems that we've created, they are uneven, right? Schools are getting more money based on property taxes, which directly resulted from uneven and racist policies that kept some people in certain neighborhoods and others in other neighborhoods, right? You guys are once again breaking those boundaries, breaking those barriers, so that we're not benefiting from racism anymore, but we're benefiting from everybody's hard work and their strive towards justice. For the last one, I mean, not the next one, it says, I promote and advocate for policies and leaders that are anti racist, right? I sit with my discomfort. I speak out when I see racism in action. I educate my peers on how racism harms our profession. I don't let my mistakes deter me from being better, because we all make mistakes. I yield positions of power to those who are otherwise marginalized, and I surround myself with others who think and look differently than me. Right? These are some ways that we can grow in becoming anti-racist. Because the thing we can't do is be in fear, right? Fear is where racism is rooted. A fear of not being seen, of being not counted, a fear of not being acknowledged, right? We don't need to sit there. We can work together and we can learn to accept our privileges and think about how we have access to certain things and how in small ways and small gestures and in our work we can really level the playing field. Disagreeing with colleagues, that will happen, especially in our training sometimes, but let's do it continuously, thoughtfully, respectfully, and being teachable, right? Let's go the extra mile to really be honest because, look, if we're not honest, we can't come together. Number 5, we can strive to evolve, right? We're growing together. Number 6, we're celebrating success, right? Let's really remember the hard work we've done and how great it is. And number 7, connecting with meaning. Let's be authentic, right? We need to have these critical conversations. They hurt, they're scary, but we're doing it. And we should be proud of that. That's how we heal, that's how we grow. Imagination is essential. It's essential for change. And, you know, if you think about what you want, that's how we create the solutions. Not worrying about the things that we don't want too much, but thinking about immediately how can we pivot to get to what we want, what type of community we want to build. So I ask you, how can we be even more open to hearing other stories? What type of work community would you love to be a part of? And how can you create it? Remember that when we eliminate negative self talk and stress, we can think more openly and more freely towards an amazing paradise that, yes, we can create. So watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your habits. Watch your habits because they become your character. and watch your character because it becomes your destiny. And not only your destiny, but the destiny of all the people that are working with you. Thank you so much for your time, and I am looking forward to blooming with you. We're going to reflect. I'll send these questions on your on the newsletter so you can think about them and do them as homework and just to grow. And there's so many ways to connect with us. Once again, if you like podcasts, feel free to check out the Blooming as a Habit podcast on Apple or Spotify. You can find me on Instagram for tons of wellness, yoga, running, and positive, feelings. More inspiration there on IG at Dr. Akoumany. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, let's bloom. Thank you so much for your time. You guys are amazing. I look forward to working with you again very soon. Have a great day.